Jim Gaffigan plays Ramsey in the Amazon TV movie Troop Zero, which will be competing at the Emmys and other television awards coming up around the circuit. I'm Matt Noble to ask you, Jim, what is the thing from this movie that has stuck with you the most since having made it?
I would say the thing that stuck with me most is that I think people appreciate a good sentimental movie if it's done well. This is the first movie I've done that people have sent me tons of direct messages or tweeted at me, but tons of Instagram direct messages just saying, "You made me cry. You know, I'm a 50-year-old man, you know." And so the emotional experience with the movie is very heartfelt. You know, it doesn't go for sap, but it goes for an authenticity, which is constructed in sincerity, even though it's this absurd world, you know.
Did you cry at all when reading the screenplay or when shooting it or anything?
I was, you know, it's you lose perspective when you live with something for so long.
Yeah.
But I was, you know, I'm a parent, so the relationship and the bonding between a parent and a child is something that is, you know, you know, even if you don't have children, it's, you know, you're a kid, you were at one time a kid. So yeah, to answer your question, I would say I was definitely moved. I wasn't sure that it would have as much of, you know, an effect on me when I saw it. Because typically when I see myself in a role, I just get distracted by how large my head is. But the story and the way the directors and the editors and the performance of everyone, McKenna Grace is unbelievable in it. Mm-hmm. And so I was very moved. It's one of those movies where I put it in the category of where it's going to blindside you. You think you're available. You think you're ready for it, but you still kind of get you know, a punch to the gut. I feel that way about It's a Wonderful Life. I've seen it a million times, but I still get emotional by, you know, the better side of humanity.
Yeah, no, definitely. Did that make your head look less?
Oh, you know what? You're really kind of.
Do you think in the film?
Sorry, you cut out. It sounded like you were being strangled by a wire. So,
like mate, am I still cutting out? I can try and move my computer if.
Oh, you're cutting out. The audio's cutting out a little bit.
We good?
Yeah, I think that's okay. Better.
Just in case it's where I am, I'll move over. Is this better, Jim?
I think that's better. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. We'll get it. So, Jim, you were saying how the movie, this real sentimentality, you've gotten this fantastic feedback from people about it. What was the biggest challenge for you as an actor in approaching this role, and how is it a bit different to other things you've done in the past?
Well, you know, I'm in this movie with, you know, 2 Academy Award winners, you know, two, you know, Tony winners. So working with Viola Davis and Allison Janney, I'd worked with Allison before and knew that she was great, and obviously Viola's great, but I was a little, intimidated. You never want to be the weak link. So that was something where, I was thrilled for the opportunity, obviously, but I was a little bit intimidated by working with such powerhouses, and I wanted to, rise to the occasion. I was intimidated by that, but also, look, it's an interesting role. I'm playing this guy from South Georgia. There's an accent. There's a lot of elements going on. There's kind of he's a unique character who carries around a dog and chews on a toothbrush. It's I had to figure out how to do an accent with a toothbrush in my mouth, but it's all good. It was fun.
Yeah, and I guess it's also set in the 70s, so you're having to act a different time period as well.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most interesting thing about this character of Ramsey that you play? What makes him tick?
I think what makes Ramsey tick is a certain level of optimism, which I think that he also Christmas inherits, which is keep moving forward. He's also a selfless guy, maybe to a fault, but and he's got flaws, but I think that what makes Ramsey so unique is that he's always there's a resilience there that I think is very heartwarming. And maybe he doesn't have the best qualities as a parent, but he's a good egg, if that makes sense.
Mm. You talk about the ensemble of the film and how working with sort of real heavyweights in terms of their credentials and awards, Alison Janney, Viola Davis, but in some ways the adult cast at times takes a backseat to the unseasoned child performers in the show. What was it like working with them and it's sort of dealing with two worlds, people that are so experienced in acting and people that are, they can't be more than a couple of years into it.
Yeah, it was fascinating because there were these different elements existing at the same time. So there was also the heat of Louisiana. It was very warm, and it was a lot of outside stuff, but there was something that was, having so many child actors on the set, and they had school and they had understandably limits on the time they could work. You would often be forced to shoot a scene. They'd shoot the coverage of the child, then they'd shoot the Academy Award winner, and then they'd shoot you. And so by the time it got to you, there would be a stand-in for the role of the child. And obviously the Academy Award winner would be there to support you. But there was a lot of different elements. But having those kids on set also brought a kind of a playfulness to this movie. And, the ideals, that Christmas and her band of characters kind of represent was reflected in the kids that are portraying them. So that kind of permeated throughout the shooting.
Yeah. Oh, and I just thought Alison Janney, Viola Davis, they've both won Tonys, Oscars, and Emmys, right? They're close to that. They're close to that EGOT. You're going to need to give us some tips on how to get a Grammy nomination.
Yeah. No, I remember we were doing promotional shoots in a tent, and that's when it kind of dawned on me. And I did a mini video going through all the awards that they've won and how, I haven't won anything. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you've got some Grammy nominations, Jim, which is the thing that they need. which is what they need to chase now to get that EGOT.
That's true.
The interesting thing for this is a lot of your career has been stand-up comedy. That's been a big part of your career, where you're playing up there on your own, and to come into an ensemble like this. How do you find that? How do you find those two worlds, the stand-up world and being in something that is so heavily an ensemble-based performance?
Well, they're two different disciplines. Obviously, they can educate each other. My acting helps my stand-up. My stand-up helps my acting. I would say I love the communal aspect of acting. I love being a piece of a puzzle, even in a moment in a scene, and collaborating, and the task of acting or listening in a scene is really rewarding. But it is, I think that particularly for the humor of a scene, having tons of onstage experience, I inherently will know where a laugh is going to be. But acting is a different skill set. So while you act some in stand up, you're really, as you pointed out, you're playing all the different roles. You're writer, director, performer. There's something really enjoyable about acting and just playing the role of one character and obsessing on his point of view and his motivation and what their backstory is.
Yeah, no, very, very much so. With with this film, was there a moment shooting on set that was just magic?
I mean, there were many moments, and some of that's in the writing, but there was, I loved when Ramsey, my character, confronts Allison Janney at her house, and I get to give this speech about how, this is our town, these are our girls, and stuff like that. There's something really gratifying about being the defender of right in the battle of right and wrong. And so that was really moving. But there was something really fun about the scenes with Viola and McKenna. There was this, because in reality, in the movie, we were this kind of odd family. And, you can read a script and you kind of work on your stuff, but the chemistry of me and McKenna and Viola is something that you only kind of experience in the moment. And it's depending on what, those performers are giving you. And so the sense of community or family of those three performers was really fun. It was really fun to experience that. I mean, acting is really fun.
Yeah. That was good. What have you learned? Did you learn anything about yourself from this experience or this role?
Oh, I think whenever I approach a role, I'm always motivated by doing justice to the character and not having any judgment. And by doing that, I inevitably learn something from the character and learn something about myself. I think with Ramsey, I was far more forgiving, obviously, to his failings as a father than I'm sure a viewer would. But I learned that, the struggle of being a dad is confusing to all participants that are in that role of dad. And we're all kind of trying our best. I think that embodying the character of Ramsey really maybe gave me, maybe I'm less critical of my ability as a father because I got to portray Ramsey being this imperfect father.
Yeah, and you may have been even more forgiving than he would be of his own.
Yeah.
What's something that what is something that was the most? Is there a scene that was the most fun to shoot?
I feel as though they were all fun. I mean, there was scenes when it was really hot, but there was an ending scene where Ramsey is talking to Christmas, and he kind of breaks his exterior and is finally vulnerable to his daughter, as opposed to kind of playing this role of pretending to be stronger than he is. And there was something very sweet, and I mean, it was just fortunate when we shot it, because I think that McKenna and I had developed a rapport where I could play this vulnerability to her and not abdicate my authority in the situation. That's how Ramsey felt to me in that situation. So yeah, I think at the end when Ramsey and Christmas are talking and they're looking up to the sky and he's talking about things very vulnerable and kind of admitting that he's struggling and he's trying to hold it together, that's one of my favorite scenes. And it's really rewarding as an actor to give a character a lot of dimension, and obviously, knowing that informed how I performed in other scenes leading up to that. But it was rewarding for Ramsey to kind of open up to Christmas.
And what's the message that you took away from the film?
What I like about this movie is that there's different things to take away. I think that's the sign of an interesting piece of art, really, is that there's not necessarily uniformity in the takeaway. And so I think when there's a uniformity of a takeaway, then it's heavy-handed. I personally think that, I'm so biased by playing Ramsey that my takeaway is much more informed by his experience and his weakness and his struggles. So, but obviously I think that we're all underdogs, and that that's revealed in Allison Janney's character, where you meet her and you think that she's the bad person, but in reality she's struggling with the same things that Christmas is, and that society's boundaries or rules are just kind of manufactured, and that we should follow our heart, and that we're all kind of dealing with stuff.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of any better place to leave it than there. Jim, thank you so much for spending the time with us. And for those watching this interview, you can go to goldderby.com to make your predictions for entertainment awards with other Hollywood celebrities and Emmy contenders. Thank you so much, Jim, for the time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.